Today, we are here with Mr. James Madison, a member of the Constitutional Convention, co-author of the Federalist Papers, member of the Democratic Republican Party, former Secretary of State, fourth President of the United States, and overall protector of the rights of American citizens. That's quite the resume you have, Mr. Madison. Let's get right into the question, shall we?
Okay.
Tell me, Mr. Madison, what are your opinions on a strong centralized government as opposed to giving power to the state legislature?
Well, that's a question with two answers, really. At one time, I was pushing the idea that a strong central government was the best option for growing democracy. Having said this, even then I believed that a government can only be as good as the people it governs. If a government is allowed to run the country without being put in check by its people, then it is no better than the monarchy we were once subjected to. The threat of tyranny is why so many Americans fear a strong central governing power. Federalism allows for the placement of overarching rules that frees up the legislature down the line. In the years around the formation of the Bill of Rights, I began to change my mind. Thomas Jefferson and I became involved in the Democratic Republican Party, which was established to oppose the Federalists that I once stood with. I saw value in the power of a central government being shifted to the states and ultimately to the people. In a government that functioned this way, people would have a larger say and be more likely to see the change they desired. The benefit of this less federalist viewpoint is the support of the individual and not just the wealthy and powerful. The likely outcome of this sort of power shift is access to the American people. However, this is only possible after an absolute set of governing rules were set out for the country as a whole. Once this was accomplished, the states become more free to determine their own will within certain bounds. Ultimately, it comes down to the people. The people are the only legitimate fountain of power, and it is from them that the constitutional charter, under which the several branches of government hold their power, is derived. I followed whatever avenues seemed the most legitimate for making this a reality, and that changed over time.
Why don't you think the Articles of Confederation were enough?
I'd first like to state why exactly the Articles of Confederation were even drafted. There was a need for political cooperation in a time of unrest and uncertainty on whether or not we'd be attacked. The Articles served to give people common ground in rules and to help people feel the presence of the new government. These documents, however, were not very extensive and only included a very basic concept of what the Constitution represents. The need for a stronger, more detailed, and more universal document became apparent. Soon after this came to the attention of the representatives, the Constitutional Convention was created in 1787 to fill the desire of the people and to draft the Constitution.
Why did you believe a Bill of Rights is an unnecessary addition to the Constitution?
Quite simply, I didn't believe it would perform the task set out for it. I thought that if our citizens' rights were written out for them, that the document would severely limit them. There would always be an important right left out or a detail not included, such that instead of providing freedom to the people, it kept them from having it.
What made you change your mind on the matter?
I never really changed my mind, but rather came to terms with the fact that the benefit outweighed the detriment. My standpoint is best stated in a letter I wrote to Thomas Jefferson in October 1788. My own opinion has always been in favor of a Bill of Rights, provided it be so framed as to not imply powers not meant to be included in the enumeration. At the same time, I never thought the omission of material defect, nor been anxious to supply it even by subsequent amendment, for any other reason than it is anxiously desired by others. In a few words, I meant that I feared a Bill of Rights wouldn't be properly executed and therefore wouldn't serve its purpose.
What is the most vital amendment?
It's incredibly difficult, if not impossible, to pick one aspect of freedom to call the most vital. There's no singular freedom above all its comparable freedoms.
In that case, is there an amendment you would like to encourage the American people to take more advantage of?
Yes, I would like to see more everyday people take advantage of their right to bear arms, delineated by the Second Amendment. This is one of the amendments that created the most controversy, but one that holds the most weight. As we've seen by example of the American Revolution, an armed people who can become an effective militia is the best form of protection a country can ask for, whether that's protection from Great Britain or an invading force in the future. I fear far too few of our citizens understand the gravity of being able to assemble into a militia quickly.
Do you think the Constitution or the Bill of Rights is lacking anything?
Yes. When the Bill of Rights was originally being drafted, the intention was for there to be 19 amendments. Senate took that number down to 12, and only 10 of those were ratified and are now part of our Constitution. I stand behind those rejected amendments, and still believe that our country's defining document would be much stronger with them. The first of the two, included by Senate but not ratified, was written so that the House of Representatives would be separated in such a way that even if the general population grew, the few would still be represented in each state. This would make constituencies remain small even if the population increased, therefore yielding representatives with a better idea of the wishes of their respective regions of influence. The second of these two amendments was written to prevent Congress from raising its own pay unlawfully. This amendment made it so that if Congress felt a pay raise was in order, they could vote for it, but it wouldn't come to be until the next congressional term in order to prevent corruption.
Thank you so much for your time, Mr. Madison.
It's been a pleasure.